Welcome, everybody, to the PCC Institute for Health Professionals podcast. My name is Pete Wright. I'm here once again with KP Khalsa. KP, how are you today?
Hi, Pete. Doing well, thanks.
Excellent. So you are, again, our esteemed instructor at the Institute for Health Professionals. And today we are going to be talking, we're going to be delving in a little bit deeper on herbalism, talking specifically about preparations and doses.
Well, right. This is the most misunderstood area of herbal medicine in the United States, and let's try to set some things straight.
Well, I sure would love to. I'm assuming that more is not better, and we could start with something like that.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I was about to say that more is almost always better. No, you're very right. You can't assume that more is going to be better, that's for sure. But the leading issue in American herbalism is dose. People are used to taking drugs, and they take their one Lunesta to go to sleep, and it has a sledgehammer type effect. Herbal medicine tends to be milder, and so people just don't have enough experience with these milder medicines to know what an appropriate dose would be. So they take, let's take valerian, that's a common Western relaxant that people take before sleep. If they take their one capsule like they would take the Lunesta, it's not going to do anything. So when they look at the 10 capsules in their hand, that's the equivalent dose, and they say, well, look, if this was Valium, I'd be dead. It bothers them, and they don't know where to go with that. So we've had an epidemic in our culture of sort of over-promising things from natural remedies. They work very, very well, but we have to get the dose and preparation straight, and we're really struggling with that. We're the only place in the modern world that still is struggling with this issue, but because we had a 70-year dry spell with no natural medicine, people haven't had the experience that they need to figure this out. They didn't see grandma and all their aunts and uncles taking herbs.
It's so much of a cultural acceptance of Western medicine that everything can be taken care of in its sort of smallest possible package.
Yeah, and we've had 100 years of drug development to really perfect that. Herbs are really more like food, and I think if we think of them as specially selected gourmet foods, it's a much better way to understand what they're supposed to do for you than just one compound in a pill. So when you take a capsule of echinacea, there's 10,000 different chemicals in there, and maybe 100 of them are active. So you're getting a wide variety of small doses of similar ingredients that are metabolized in different ways in your body. And that results in far fewer side effects, a much gentler approach, but equally as effective in terms of symptoms. But everywhere around the world, people are used to taking much higher doses than we have gotten used to here, and we just need to be serious about figuring out what the real dose is. So the dose on the bottle that you buy from the health food store, unfortunately, is not the real dose. That's the dose that the company thinks that won't freak you out. So every single dose, you notice, says 1 to 2 capsules a day. And that's because they'd like to continue selling you product, and people don't know the difference, so they just keep buying it, thinking it must be working without actually being able to feel it. Herbal medicine is feelable, real, dynamic, dramatic, and it has profound effects that if you take the right dose, you're knowing it. So it's an educational challenge.
Wow, the freak out model is a fascinating way for you to phrase that. I think I get the feeling that there are, and again speaking from personal experience, that when you read the message on the bottle, you're reading that based on some sort of testing rigor that has gone into defining what 1 to 2 capsules a day will do for you that is appropriate. So again, back to that, there's a culture of the process that gets the labels made that it sounds like don't necessarily apply here. But what you're talking about sounds more like something that needs to be approached as a lifestyle change rather than just I'm going to the mechanic to fix my carburetor change.
Well, very much so. And in fact, wouldn't it be great if that dose was based on something real? But I think they have done some testing, but the testing wasn't laboratory testing of that dose. It was consumer testing of asking people, how much of this would you like to take per day? Not what kind of dramatic positive effects would you like to get from this medicine. So we, in America, the average dose that people from the health food store consume is about 1/60th. That's 1 1/60th of the dose that the average Chinese person would take, and about 1/15th of the dose that the average European would take. And you could see why it's challenging for people to get the results that they want from using herbs. I'd like to see people have the great success I know is possible, rather than maximum opportunity to avoid side effects.
That's 1/60th.
Yeah.
That's wow. So what's going on in my head right now is the potential practical challenges of taking 60 pills in a day. That's not what you're talking about here, right?
Well, we wouldn't administer something in the form of a pill that you had to take 60 a day. Something like that would be a tea or some other mechanism like that to get it in you that would be more convenient to swallow. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about the. We've talked a lot about the some of the specific herbs here. Let's talk about the 3 top herbal preparations, as you call them, and that folks might know, and the advantages of each of them.
Yeah, capsules are the most common way to take herbs in America. People are used to taking pills, so it's the most familiar and it's clean and convenient. The disadvantage is that it's the most expensive way to take herbs. The actual herb in there, the cost is negligible, but all the processing, packaging, labeling, shipping, all of that is what makes them costly. And then the issue with people expecting them to act like drugs.
And when they have to take 60 of them.
Well, right. And yeah, and there again, there's this problem with manufacturers selling whatever people will buy and not taking the lead on producing products that actually are in the form that's suitable to use that particular herb. And we just have to get over this, and it's going to take a while. In Germany, for example, it's essentially impossible to sell an inferior product because people have been using herbs there continuously. They didn't have this 70-year gap that we had. And so if a company brings out an inferior product, people try it once. It doesn't work. They never go back because they have something to compare it to. Here, we don't have anything to compare it to, so we don't know whether that one capsule of echinacea that we took every day kept us from getting fewer colds or not. So the second preparation is tea. Tea is the most popular way to use herbs all over the world, but the least popular here. And the issue with tea is that people expect it to be beverage. So they're used to drinking tasty beverages, and herbal teas don't taste good. And we have to think of them as medicine, not as tea. In fact, the Chinese word for herbal medicine is soup, not tea. Tea is something you sit around and enjoy with your friends. Your herbal soup is something that you take for your health, and it's not supposed to taste good. So we have that big hurdle to get over, and then you have to swallow a bunch of it. It's easy to do. It's just a few gulps, but it doesn't have the mouth appeal that a Coca-Cola or a nice Lipton tea would have.
Sure, and our culture is again flavored teas is tea. That's what you get. It's iced tea. It's Starbucks. It's
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so we're having that challenge to educate people. And then the third preparation is tincture, which is an alcoholic extract of plants, and that's the most common in Europe, but increasingly popular here. Unfortunately, people have the idea that somehow when an herb is extracted in alcohol, it makes it nuclear powered. And they think that a couple drops is going to do something. But when we actually do the arithmetic, we realize that the dose is often significantly higher than the dose on the bottle, which again was put there so that you would buy the product, not to give you maximum benefit.
Okay, and a tincture is another. You drink it, right? That's another thing that we're drinking.
Yeah, it's liquid. Yeah. You pour some into some other kind of liquid, like some juice or water, and drink it down.
Okay. When would you say that consumers would benefit from actually seeing a professional herbalist versus just going down to New Seasons and browsing the natural food section?
Yeah, this goes back to this issue with the disadvantage here being that nobody had a grandma that used herbal medicine, so nobody knows what to expect, how to do it. They've never seen it. So I would suggest that everybody, regardless of what your intention is, go to see a professional for even just one introductory session and just ask some of these basic questions about dose and preparation and get straight on some of these things. How can I make my money? How can I get the best bang for my buck? and which herb is going to be suitable in which preparation and what kinds of doses, and get some basic idea. Right there, you could save yourself a tremendous amount of money, regardless of the consultation fee for the practitioner. And then you could get some advice on your health as well. So if we lived in a culture where people had grandmas, we'd know that 90% of our boo-boos and tummy aches could be handled with herbal medicine using simple teas and, tinctures that everybody would know, everybody in their village would understand, and you could go to the health food store and do it. But people just don't have that understanding. So they go to New Seasons and they're confronted with literally a wall of confusion. Just no idea what to take, when, or how. And companies take advantage of that and sell things that may not be the right form, the right dose, the right preparation in some way to give people what they're really seeking. So it would be great for people to take a class and or see a professional.
One of the things I appreciate so much about our conversations is that you are so expert at taking the long view on these topics. And you've said a number of times that we have had a generation of folks that are conditioned to this sort of Western approach, and we don't have the grandma factor. But I think it's important probably to have to share some thoughts about what happened before that 70-year gap, that this stuff is not completely new to us culturally. We have some history here, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, America was the epicenter of herbal medicine studies. If we go back to, let's say, 1890, which was really kind of the high point, we had numerous high quality medical institutions, and we were exchanging doctors with major cities all over Europe, Edinburgh, Rome, Paris, and people were learning about American herbs, and Americans were learning about European herbs, and it was delivered at a very high standard. For various reasons, that whole system crashed within the next 20 years, and conventional medicine ended up dominating, but only here in North America. Everywhere else, they learned to coexist and have been integrated ever since. And so I gave the example of Germany earlier. That's a place where people can see their conventional medical doctor. They can see their natural practitioner. They work together. Government health insurance pays for the whole thing. The government actually documents and approves the validity of herbal medicines. And medical doctors themselves, about 2/3 of them prescribe herbal medicine on a daily basis, so completely integrated. Here, we've taken a generation to resurrect the whole herbal medicine system, and we've just gotten to the point where we've done it, and we've trained herbalists, naturopathic physicians, Chinese practitioners, all these people who know enough about what they're doing to be able to actually treat people and get some great clinical results.
Well, it's fantastic history that you bring to this topic, and I sure appreciate your practical expertise. Can you share a few thoughts on the class that you're teaching that deals with it? I know we've talked about the Herbalism course before, but how does this particular topic integrate with your work at PCC Climb?
The class that I'm involved in is the professional training course, and there we're actually training professionals. We're training them to get an education that allows them to go out and actually practice with real people in the real world. And sometimes they choose to do that as consultants, and sometimes they work in industry. We train people in all of the big three herbal systems, which is Western, Ayurveda, and Chinese medicine. And we answer these kinds of questions about dose and preparations and teach people the truth about how to point their clients toward the type of way to consume herbal medicine that's actually going to work. And that's always the frustrating thing to me, is that people say, yeah, I took one capsule of echinacea a day for 3 days and my cold didn't go away, so I guess it doesn't work. Well, they took the wrong dose, the wrong preparation, and the wrong herb. And again, if we went back, by the way, I'm going to steal your term, the grandma factor. That's immediately going to go right into something. But yeah, since we don't have the grandma factor, people are just guessing. So we train professionals in this class, and we intend that they go out and actually know the answers to these questions and can help real people on the ground.
Well, again, it's always illuminating conversation. I know I have certainly learned something today. I hope others have as well. Thank you, KP Khalsa, for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure, Pete.
Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Please find us on Facebook at facebook.com/PCC Health Professionals, which is really evolving into a terrific resource for health and healthcare news. Thanks to everybody on the IHP team that contributes. If you're listening to the show on Facebook, make sure to head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show for free, and then you can have each episode delivered to your computer or mobile device as we post each Tuesday. On behalf of KP Khalsa, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week on the PCC Institute for Health Professionals podcast.